Granny sits back in her creaky wooden chair, the familiar groan of the old joints echoing softly in the quiet kitchen. She taps her teacup gently on the worn table, the sound ringing faintly against the faded tablecloth. Sunlight pours in through the small window, casting a warm, golden glow across the kitchen. Dust motes float lazily in the light, moving like tiny memories dancing in the air. She smiles knowingly, eyes twinkling as though she's been carrying the secrets of life tucked away between the wrinkles on her hands. Some rules, baby, she says, aren't written in books. They aren't told in school, and no one gives you a lecture on them. You only learn them the hard way, by spilling milk, burning toast, or losing your patience with someone you love. The camera moves slowly across the kitchen, capturing the details: a chipped teacup with a delicate floral pattern, a small plate of cookies cooling by the window, a vase with fading flowers that had once been bright and lively. Each item whispers stories of days gone by, quiet lessons taught with patience, love, and sometimes a little scolding. Granny picks up a teacup and cradles it in her hands. Life teaches you through small moments, she continues, and most of the time, those moments happen right here, at a table like this. It's not the fancy dinners or big celebrations. It's in the quiet mornings when you sip your tea, in the afternoons when you're chopping vegetables, in the evenings when you clean up after a simple meal. She leans closer, voice softening but firm. Pay attention, baby. These small, everyday moments, they carry lessons that money can't buy and textbooks will never tell you. Granny pauses, looking around the room as if the walls themselves might be listening. See this table, she says, tapping the worn wood. It's seen laughter, arguments, tears, and secrets. It's where mistakes were forgiven, where love was spoken without words, and where the rules of kindness, patience, and respect were silently taught. The rules that really matter aren't shouted from rooftops, they're whispered in kitchens like this one. She picks up a cookie, holding it between her fingers. These little rules, she smiles, might seem silly at first. Don't talk with your mouth full, don't waste food, always say thank you. But believe me, baby, each one is a thread in the fabric of life. Ignore them, and life has a funny way of reminding you why they exist. Granny sets the cookie down and leans back, her eyes meeting the camera as if looking directly at you. I've lived long enough to see that those who understand these unwritten rules, who truly pay attention to them, are the ones who live with less regret, more joy, and hearts full of love. And the rest? Well, they learn them the hard way, just like I did when I was your age. The music swells softly as she picks up her teacup again. Today, I want to share some of these rules with you. Keep them close. Remember them. Treat them like tiny pieces of wisdom that can guide you when no one else is around. Sit with me at this old kitchen table, baby, and I'll show you the ways that make life a little easier, a little brighter, and a lot more meaningful. Granny leans back in her chair, gently shaking her head with a small smile. She taps the edge of her teacup, the faint clink echoing through the cozy kitchen. The worn wooden table in front of her carries the marks of decades, scratches, stains, little nicks, but it's more than a table, it's a classroom of life lessons. You see, she continues, voice soft but firm, it's not just about manners. It's about respect. Respect for the people sitting around you, and respect for yourself. When you chew and talk at the same time, it's like rushing life. It's like saying, I don't care what's happening here, I just care about me. And life, baby, doesn't like selfishness. She gestures toward a half-filled plate of food. I remember when I was a little girl, my grandmother used to say this exact same thing. We'd be eating, and she'd look over her glasses and say, honey, chew first, talk later. Otherwise, the words won't taste right. At the time, I thought she was just being fussy. But now, I realized she was teaching something bigger than table manners. She was teaching patience, awareness, and the art of listening. Granny picks up her fork and slowly demonstrates, taking a careful bite. See? You chew, you savor, and only then do you speak. Because when you rush, baby, you miss the flavor, not just of the food, but of the conversation, the people around you, the moment itself. She leans forward, eyes sparkling with mischief and wisdom. And you know what else? Listening while someone else speaks, that's where real understanding grows. If you're busy stuffing your mouth, you're not hearing them. You're not seeing their expressions. You're missing out on the little things that tell you more than words ever could. Sometimes, life is like a meal, she says softly. You rush through it, gobble it down, and you end up choking on mistakes. But if you take your time, chew carefully, savor each bite, you'll notice the flavors, the textures, and you'll enjoy it more. That's what manners really are. They teach you to slow down, notice life, and appreciate people. She pauses, leaning back and smiling. So, next time you sit at the table, remember this little rule. It may seem small, silly even. But it's not. Every meal, every conversation is an opportunity to show respect, to listen, to connect. Chew first, speak second. Life's lessons are often quiet, baby, and they're easiest to hear when your mouth is empty and your heart is open. Granny lifts her teacup in a gentle toast. Here's to slowing down, savoring life, and learning the little rules that make a big difference. Now, let's move on to the next one. I've got plenty more wisdom to share at this table. Granny stands by the old kitchen counter, holding a small glass jar of sugar. The morning sunlight streams through the window, catching the tiny crystals and making them sparkle like little diamonds. She smiles softly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. You might think it's just sugar, she begins, her voice calm but filled with warmth. But it's never just about sugar. It's about trust, kindness, and the little gestures that say, I see you. I respect you. When you borrow something, anything, it's not just about taking, it's about returning it better than you found it. She sets the jar down carefully and walks toward the wooden kitchen table, patting the surface as she goes. I remember the neighbors when I was growing up. Mrs. Thompson across the street, she always let us borrow what we needed. Sugar, milk, a little flour for baking. And in return, we'd bring back a fresh pie or cookies, sometimes even just a smile and a thank you note. That's what makes a community strong, baby, small acts of kindness that never get written down, but are felt deeply. Granny leans closer, her voice dropping slightly. Life is full of borrowed things, not just sugar, but time, trust, love, patience. How you return them matters. Do you return them bitter, resentful, careless? Or do you return them sweet, thoughtful, full of respect? That's what builds character. She picks up a spoon and stirs a cup of tea, watching the swirl of sugar dissolve. See this, she says softly. It doesn't matter how small the gesture seems. The thought behind it, the care you put into it, that's what counts. A little sugar can make tea sweeter, just like a little kindness can make life sweeter. Granny chuckles, remembering a story. Once, I borrowed sugar from Mrs. Thompson, and forgot to return it for a week. When I finally did, I added a little extra, and she laughed. Now that's what I call returning it sweet, she said. Baby, life is full of these little moments, remember them. Every act, no matter how tiny, can leave a mark, a memory, a lesson. She leans back, her eyes thoughtful. So, when you borrow, return better than you found it. When you take, give back. When life gives you a little sweetness, share it. And the next time someone needs a hand, or a cup of sugar, you'll know that generosity isn't just about what you give, it's about how you give it. Granny picks up the jar of sugar again and sets it gently on the table. Remember this, baby. Simple rules, small gestures, they build the life you want. Now, are you ready for the next lesson? Because there's plenty more wisdom waiting right here at this table. Watch how someone treats the waitress, baby, it tells you more than words ever could. Granny sits at a corner table in a small, cozy diner. The walls are decorated with faded photographs and menus yellowed with age. The smell of fresh coffee and warm bread fills the air. She stirs her tea slowly, taking a measured sip before speaking. You see, it's not just about being polite, she begins, her eyes thoughtful. It's about character. You can be charming to your friends, generous to your family, but how you act when no one expects anything, that's the real measure of a person. A young waitress walks past, balancing a tray of plates, smiling politely. Granny watches quietly. I've seen it, baby. People who are polite when it benefits them but rude when it doesn't, they'll never earn true respect. And the ones who treat everyone kindly, even when it's inconvenient? Those are the people who live a life filled with genuine connection, trust, and love. Granny continues, voice soft but firm. I remember my husband, rest his soul. He had this habit, no matter where we were, he'd always tip a little extra, always say please and thank you, even if the service was slow or the food took forever. And you know what, baby? People noticed. They respected him, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it through kindness and integrity. She leans closer, eyes sparkling with wisdom. Life isn't about impressing the people at the table with you. It's about who notices you when no one else is looking. That waitress, the janitor, the delivery person, treat them with respect. Your actions will ripple further than you realize. And trust me, baby, that ripple always comes back. Granny takes a sip of her tea and smiles softly. Kindness is never wasted. And rudeness, oh, it leaves stains, even if you don't see them immediately. So, the next time you're out, or even in life's little moments, pay attention. Watch how someone treats the people who serve, the people who help. That's where you'll learn about their true heart, and sometimes, your own. The camera focuses on Granny's hands resting on the table, worn but steady, a teacup beside her. Remember this, she says, her voice warm and deliberate. It's the small gestures, the quiet respect, the unseen kindness that define who we really are. And if you can practice that, baby, you'll never have to question your own heart. Granny leans back, the soft jazz blending with the ambient diner sounds. All right, we've got plenty more to cover. Let's move on to the next little lesson, because life's kitchen table is full of wisdom. If it can be fixed with soap and water, baby, don't cry yet. Granny stands at the kitchen sink, her sleeves rolled up, hands submerged in warm, soapy water. Soap bubbles float lazily in the air, catching the sunlight streaming through the window. She smiles, humming softly, watching a stubborn stain slowly disappear under her careful scrubbing. You see, baby, she begins, life is full of messes. Spilled milk, dirty dishes, broken plates, and bigger problems too, like arguments or mistakes. Most of them aren't the end of the world. They can be cleaned, fixed, and set right, if you just take a breath and deal with them calmly. She picks up a plate and rubs it gently with the sponge, letting the suds do their work. When I was a girl, I used to panic if I dropped something. I'd cry, stomp, and make the problem feel 10 times bigger than it was. But Granny, my Granny, she just smiled and said, soap and water fixes most things, baby. Clean it up, and move on. That was more than about dishes, it was about life. Think about it. How often do we cry over things that are temporary? Arguments, spilled secrets, small mistakes. Most of them, if approached with calm and patience, can be set right. Don't panic. Don't overreact. Treat them like a plate that's fallen in the kitchen. Soap, water, a little effort, and it's clean again. She lifts the plate, inspecting it carefully, and smiles. Life's lessons often hide in chores like this. Scrubbing a dish teaches patience. Cleaning a spill teaches responsibility. Washing up after a mess teaches humility. And baby, those are the lessons you carry into the bigger world. The world that can be messy and stubborn, just like a stubborn stain, but nothing too big for a little care and attention. Granny wipes her hands on her apron and leans against the counter, looking directly at you. So, the next time something goes wrong, before you cry or get angry, ask yourself, can it be fixed with soap and water? If yes, then calm down. Take a deep breath. Handle it. Life is too short to waste on tears over things that can be cleaned up. The camera zooms in slightly, capturing Granny's calm, patient expression as sunlight falls on the bubbles in the sink. And remember, baby, sometimes the smallest acts, scrubbing a dish, washing your hands, cleaning a mess, teach you the biggest lessons. Life isn't about avoiding problems. It's about knowing which ones are worth crying over, and which ones just need a little soap and water. Granny picks up the sponge one last time, gently scrubbing a stubborn corner of the sink with a soft chuckle. All right, baby, ready for the next little lesson? There's plenty more waiting right here at this kitchen table. Say thank you, baby, and mean it. Granny sits at the kitchen table, hands gently clasped around her favorite teacup. Sunlight streams through the small window, illuminating the wrinkles on her face, the map of a life lived fully, with laughter, tears, and countless lessons learned. You see, baby, she begins, her voice warm and steady, a simple thank you can change everything. It costs nothing, but its value is more than gold. Saying it like you mean it, that's the trick. Not just a word, but a feeling, a reflection of your heart. That's what turns a moment ordinary into something meaningful. She smiles, thinking back. I remember my mother always saying this to me, Granny, never let a kindness go unacknowledged. If someone helps you, even in a small way, look them in the eyes, and let them know you mean it. At the time, I didn't always understand. But now, baby, I see it clearly. Granny gestures toward the table, where a plate of cookies and a teacup sit. Life gives us help in many forms. A neighbor bringing over a little treat, someone holding a door open, a friend listening to your worries. These small gestures might seem tiny, but they're the glue that holds people together. And acknowledging them sincerely, well, that keeps love alive. She leans closer, voice softening with emotion. I've watched people go through life mechanically, saying, thank you, like it's just words. But when you say it with heart, baby, something shifts. The other person feels seen, valued, appreciated. And in return, you feel lighter, happier, more connected. Gratitude is a two-way street. Granny continues, sometimes, it's hard to express gratitude. Pride, fear, or just being in a hurry gets in the way. But baby, the smallest pause to truly say, thank you, that's a gift. It's a ripple that grows. One genuine thank you can inspire another, and before you know it, the world feels warmer, lighter, kinder. She smiles softly, lifting her teacup as if to toast the invisible audience. So next time someone helps you, feeds you, or even just listens to you, don't mumble the words. Say them. Say them clearly. Say them with your heart. Life will notice, and so will they. Granny leans back in her chair, eyes twinkling with wisdom. Remember, baby, manners are more than rules, they're lessons in humanity. Gratitude is one of the most important lessons of all. Keep it close. Practice it daily. And the world will feel like a much brighter place, one thank you at a time. Eat together, baby, whenever you can. Granny sits at the head of the wooden kitchen table, sunlight streaming through the window and casting a warm glow over the simple home-cooked meal in front of her. She smiles softly, her hands folded gently on the table, and looks around as if remembering countless meals shared with family and friends. You see, baby, she begins, her voice gentle but full of authority, there's magic in sharing a meal. Not the kind in fairy tales, but the kind that fills hearts, not just stomachs. When people gather, talk, and eat together, they share more than food, they share time, laughter, stories, and love. Granny gestures toward the empty chairs around the table. Look at these chairs. Sometimes they're empty, sometimes full. But every time someone sits down, there's a chance to connect, to listen, to teach, and to learn. Life is busy, people rush, distractions everywhere. But sitting together at the table, that's where bonds are strengthened, where memories are made, and where life's simplest lessons are passed down quietly. She picks up a teacup and takes a slow sip, her eyes reflecting decades of family dinners. I remember Sunday mornings when my children were young. The table would be crowded with plates of pancakes, scrambled eggs, and syrup dripping from the edges. Everyone talked at once, some laughed, some argued, but the air was full of love. Those moments, baby, they shaped who we became. We learned patience, we learned respect, and we learned to listen, even in the chaos. Granny continues, her voice softening with emotion. Even when family members move away, even when life gets complicated, the memory of meals shared keeps us close. And when we make an effort to eat together, even if only occasionally, it reminds us that relationships require attention, love, and presence. Sitting down together says, I see you, I value you, and I want to spend this time with you. That's more important than any fancy dinner or expensive gift. She leans closer to the camera, her tone sincere. So, baby, don't let life get in the way. Even a quick meal, even a cup of tea together, matters. Eat together, laugh together, talk together. It's in these simple, quiet moments that family grows, trust is built, and memories last a lifetime. Granny smiles warmly, picking up a small plate of cookies. Remember, the table isn't just for food, it's for connection, for love, and for the lessons that last far longer than the meal itself. Make time for it. Share it. Cherish it. Don't waste leftovers, baby, there's always a way to make use of what you have. Granny stands by the kitchen counter, a small container of yesterday's stew in her hands. She smiles knowingly, looking at the food like it holds secrets of life. You might think this is just about food, she says, voice calm and warm. But it's really about respect, respect for what you have, for the effort someone put into it, and for the resources that life gives you. She sets the container on the counter and begins carefully packing the leftovers into a smaller bowl. I remember when I was young, my mother used to say, waste nothing, baby. Even the smallest scrap has value. I used to roll my eyes, thinking she was being old-fashioned. But now, I see it. Every crumb, every leftover, carries a lesson about patience, creativity, and gratitude. Granny continues, life is like this kitchen. Sometimes things aren't perfect, meals get cold, ingredients get left over, opportunities slip by. But if you approach it with thought, with creativity, with care, nothing is truly wasted. That's what leftovers teach us. They remind us to be resourceful, to make the most of what we're given, and to appreciate even the small things that often go unnoticed. She picks up a piece of bread and gently dips it into the stew. See this? It's a simple act, baby, but it's meaningful. You take what's left, and you make something new. Life gives us leftovers too, moments that seem small, people who are overlooked, ideas that get ignored. Don't discard them. Nurture them. Transform them into something valuable. Granny leans closer, her eyes sparkling with wisdom. And there's another lesson here, gratitude. When you honor what you have, instead of throwing it away, you train yourself to notice abundance instead of scarcity. You realize that life's gifts, even the small ones, are never meaningless. The camera pans to the sunlit kitchen table, where Granny places the bowl of leftovers carefully. So, baby, remember this: respect your food, respect your time, respect the effort others put in. Waste nothing, there's always a way to turn what's left into something wonderful. Life rewards those who see value, even in what others overlook. Granny picks up her teacup, sipping slowly, a quiet smile on her face. All right, baby, we've got more lessons coming. Life's kitchen table is full of wisdom, and we've only just begun. Listen more than you speak, baby, you'll learn more than you imagine. Granny sits at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm teacup. The sunlight filters through the lace curtains, illuminating the worn wood and the faint scratches that tell stories of meals shared, secrets whispered, and lessons learned. She leans back slightly, eyes thoughtful, and begins speaking in her gentle, knowing voice. You see, baby, she starts, most people spend so much time talking, they forget the most important part of communication, listening. Listening isn't just hearing words, it's noticing, understanding, feeling what's not being said. That's where wisdom hides. That's where life teaches you its quietest lessons. She gestures toward the empty chairs around the table. I remember my father used to sit here, listening to every word we said, sometimes without saying much himself. At the time, I thought he was being quiet or lazy. But later, I realized, he was learning. He was paying attention to tone, emotion, hesitation, and joy. That's how he understood us so well. That's how he knew what we needed before we even asked. Granny continues, life is full of people who speak loudly, demanding attention, rushing to be heard. But the quiet ones, the listeners, they see more, understand more, and make fewer mistakes. Listening teaches patience, empathy, and humility. It teaches you when to act and when to wait. And baby, that's more valuable than the cleverest words you can ever say. She leans closer, voice softening but firm. Next time someone talks to you, truly listens to them. Don't just think about your reply. Don't interrupt or rush. Notice their eyes, their gestures, the pauses. That's where life's lessons are hidden. And sometimes, just listening, it's the most loving thing you can do. Granny smiles, taking a slow sip of her tea. And here's another secret, baby, when you learn to listen, you also learn about yourself. You discover patience you didn't know you had, understanding you didn't expect, and compassion that grows quietly, like yeast in bread dough. Listening isn't just about others, it's about growing your own heart. The camera slowly zooms in on Granny's hands resting on the teacup, the soft sunlight falling across them. So, remember this rule, baby. Speak less, listen more. Absorb the stories, the moments, the lessons hidden in quiet words. Life has a lot to teach, but only if you're paying attention. And trust me, those who listen understand life better than those who only talk. Granny leans back in her chair, eyes twinkling. All right, baby, ready for the next lesson? There are more treasures waiting at this old kitchen table. Patience makes everything taste better, baby, and not just the food. Granny sits at the kitchen table, a warm pie cooling in front of her. The golden crust glistens in the soft afternoon light, and the sweet aroma fills the room. She smiles softly, hands folded in front of her, and begins to speak in her calm, knowing voice. You see, baby, she starts, life is a lot like cooking. You can rush it, try to finish it faster, or you can take your time. And believe me, everything tastes better when you wait, when you give it the attention it deserves. She picks up a slice of the pie, holding it carefully. I remember when I baked my first pie. I was in a hurry, wanted it done quickly. The crust was soggy, the filling wasn't quite set. But when I waited, baby, when I let the pie rest, let the flavors come together, it was perfect. Sweet, tender, and full of richness. Life works the same way. Rush through it, and you miss the flavor, the beauty, the lessons. Granny continues, patience isn't just about food, baby. It's about people, relationships, and even your own dreams. Waiting for the right moment, giving time for growth, for understanding, for healing, that's what makes life richer, sweeter, and more rewarding. Impatience only leaves you bitter, like half-baked bread. She leans forward slightly, her eyes twinkling. I've seen families argue because someone didn't want to wait. I've seen friendships drift because patience ran out. And I've seen opportunities pass because someone tried to rush things. But baby, if you practice patience, truly wait and nurture, it makes everything better. Not just the taste of a meal, but the taste of life itself. Granny picks up her teacup, swirling the tea gently. Even simple things, like a cup of tea, a conversation, or a quiet morning, are sweeter when you're patient. When you stop rushing, stop worrying about what comes next, and focus on the moment, the flavor, the lesson. That's when life shows its best side. She sets the cup down and smiles softly. So remember this, baby, patience is a secret ingredient. Not just in cooking, but in life. Everything, love, work, friendship, dreams, benefits when you wait a little, nurture a little, and let things unfold in their own time. Rush too soon, and you miss the magic. Granny leans back in her chair, eyes twinkling with wisdom and warmth. All right, baby, ready for the next little lesson at the kitchen table? There's plenty more waiting for you, and each one is sweeter than the last if you just take your time. A little humor, baby, it makes the hard days easier. Granny sits at the kitchen table, a half smile on her face as she stirs her tea slowly. Sunlight streams through the window, illuminating the scratches and marks on the wooden table, a record of meals, conversations, and countless life lessons. She leans back slightly, her eyes sparkling with mischief and wisdom. You see, baby, she begins, life is full of challenges. Some days are messy, some days are long, and some days, well, they just don't go your way. But humor, little moments of laughter, changes everything. It's the secret ingredient that makes heavy moments feel lighter, and hard lessons a little sweeter. She picks up a teacup and takes a slow sip, then chuckles softly. I remember once I burned a whole batch of cookies. Smoke everywhere, children crying, the kitchen smelled like disaster. I could have panicked, got angry, or blamed myself. But instead, I laughed. And you know what? That laughter saved the day. The kids joined in, we turned it into a game, and the disaster became a memory we still laugh about decades later. Granny continues, humor doesn't just lighten the mood, it builds resilience. It teaches us to see the bigger picture, to not take ourselves too seriously, and to keep moving forward even when things go wrong. And baby, let me tell you, there's nothing stronger than someone who can smile through the struggle. Laughter heals, connects, and reminds us that life, even in its difficulties, is worth enjoying. She leans forward, eyes twinkling. A joke, a funny story, a smile at the right moment, these small moments of humor can turn frustration into patience, mistakes into learning, and ordinary days into cherished memories. It's not about ignoring problems, it's about facing them with grace, courage, and a twinkle in your eye. Granny gestures toward a small stack of plates. Even in the kitchen, humor matters. Burned toast? Laugh. Soup spilled on the counter? Laugh. Life spills over sometimes, baby, and if you can laugh with it instead of fighting it, oh, it makes the whole journey lighter. She sips her tea again and smiles warmly. So, remember this rule, baby, a little humor goes a long way. Don't let the hard days crush you. Find the funny moments, smile at them, laugh with your family, and carry that joy with you. It makes the hard times easier and the good times even sweeter. Granny leans back, eyes glinting with warmth. All right, baby, ready for the next lesson? There are a few more nuggets of wisdom left at this kitchen table, and each one is just as important. Keep your promises, baby, no matter how small. Granny sits at the kitchen table, hands folded gently around her favorite teacup. Sunlight spills across the wooden surface, highlighting the worn scratches and marks, evidence of years of life, love, and lessons shared at this very table. She looks up, eyes calm and thoughtful, and begins speaking in her warm, steady voice. You see, baby, she begins, a promise is more than words. It's a little piece of trust, a tiny thread connecting hearts. And even the smallest promise, it matters. Whether it's promising to call your friend back, to help your neighbor, or to finish a task, keeping it shows who you are inside. Granny lifts her teacup, swirling the tea slowly. I remember when I was young, I promised my brother I'd help him bake cookies. I got distracted and almost forgot. But I went back, we finished the cookies together, and that moment, it wasn't about the cookies. It was about trust, love, and showing him that my word meant something. That, baby, is what keeps relationships strong. Granny continues, promises are like seeds. If you nurture them, they grow into trust, respect, and strong bonds. Break them, even by accident, and you may leave cracks that take a long time to heal. So, baby, take promises seriously. Not just the big ones, but the small ones too. They matter just as much, because life is built on the little commitments we honor every day. She leans closer, voice softening. Sometimes keeping a promise requires patience, effort, or sacrifice. But that's the point. The value isn't in how easy it is, it's in the integrity it shows. When people know they can count on you, they respect you, love you, and trust you. And baby, there's no stronger foundation than trust in this world. Granny sets the teacup down gently, eyes reflecting years of quiet wisdom. So, remember this, promise only what you can keep, and then keep it. Don't make excuses. Don't delay. Keep your word. It may feel small at the time, but it shapes the person you are, the life you live, and the love you share. She smiles softly, reaching for a small plate of cookies. All right, baby, ready for the next lesson at the kitchen table? There are a few more rules left, and each one is just as sweet as the last. Celebrate the small wins, baby, they add up to the big ones. Granny sits at the kitchen table, a small plate of freshly baked cookies in front of her. The sunlight falls warmly across the wooden surface, and she smiles softly, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. Her eyes sparkle with quiet joy as she begins to speak. You see, baby, she starts, life isn't just about the big moments, the graduations, the promotions, the holidays. No, it's about the little victories too. Making it through a tough day, finishing a small task, learning something new, these are the wins that matter. And celebrating them keeps your heart light and your spirit strong. She picks up a cookie and takes a slow bite. I remember my daughter, when she was just a little thing, learning to ride her bike. Every time she pedaled a little further, I cheered. Every wobble, every tiny success, we celebrated. And baby, those small moments built her confidence, her courage, her joy. It wasn't the big race that mattered, it was the tiny wins that added up. Granny continues, voice soft but firm. Celebrating small wins also teaches gratitude. It helps you notice progress, effort, and growth that might otherwise go unnoticed. Life can feel overwhelming when you focus only on the big picture. But when you pause to celebrate small victories, baby, suddenly, it all feels achievable. You gain momentum, confidence, and a sense of joy that keeps you going. She leans closer, eyes sparkling with wisdom. Even in the kitchen, small wins matter. A perfectly risen loaf of bread, a well-timed stir, a dish that turns out just right, each success deserves recognition. And in life, it's the same. A completed task, a kind word given, a challenge faced, you celebrate, you acknowledge, you grow. Granny sets the teacup down gently and smiles warmly. So, baby, don't wait for the big moments to feel proud. Celebrate the small wins every day. They are the building blocks of confidence, happiness, and a life well lived. And when those big wins do come, you'll have already trained your heart to appreciate them fully. She picks up a cookie and offers an imaginary one to the camera. All right, baby, we're down to our final lesson at the kitchen table. One last rule to share before we finish, and it's a special one. Are you ready? All right, baby, here's my final little rule. Life's little rules, the ones that aren't written down anywhere, but I've learned at this kitchen table over decades, remember them, and you'll do just fine. Granny sits at the head of the kitchen table, hands resting gently on the worn wooden surface. Sunlight streams through the window, catching the wrinkles on her face, each line a story, each mark a memory. She smiles warmly, leaning back in her chair as if sharing a secret. You see, baby, she begins, voice calm and steady, life doesn't come with a manual. You won't always have instructions, and the people around you, well, they're figuring it out too. But if you remember these little rules, patience, gratitude, humor, kindness, they'll guide you better than any book ever could. Treat people with respect. Listen. Keep your promises. Celebrate the small wins. Don't slam doors. And most importantly, live with a soft heart and an open mind. Granny gestures toward the sunlit table, the plates, and cups scattered across it. These aren't just rules for the kitchen, baby. They're rules for life. Life can get messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright frustrating. But if you carry these little lessons with you, you'll navigate it with grace, laughter, and a heart full of love. And that's what matters most. Granny leans closer, eyes sparkling, as if speaking directly to you. And here's one last little secret, life's better when you're connected, baby. Share these lessons with others, tell your stories, laugh with your family, and spread the love. And speaking of sharing, if you've enjoyed sitting at this kitchen table with me today, learning these little rules, there's one more thing you can do. She smiles warmly, lifting her teacup as if offering a toast. Hit that subscribe button. Join me here at the table, because every week, there's more wisdom, more laughter, and more stories to share. Be part of this family, baby. Let's learn together, grow together, and make life just a little sweeter, one kitchen table at a time. Granny leans back, letting out a soft chuckle. Alright, baby, that's it for today. Keep these lessons close. Live with love. Laugh often. And don't forget, subscribe, so you never miss the next little nugget of wisdom from Granny's kitchen table.